Hey guys, Jake here. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up before the video starts. I'm using a green screen now for the very first time, and there's still some bugs to work out. So if you notice anything weird, like one of horns disappearing, please just bear with me. I should have the lighting and everything better next time. Thanks. Simulator games are surprisingly popular. Look at Microsoft Flight Simulator, which has a huge audience despite needing a $50,000 computer to run properly. But they're also some of the hardest games to play, since the player has to keep track of so many different documents and dials and controls and all that stuff. This goes for things like EVE Online too. They're still simulators, just for stuff that doesn't actually exist yet. But if you think simulators are already difficult to play, just imagine how hard it is to keep track of them in VR, using only the default motion controls and bad menus. Welcome to Horns in a Headset. You can call me Horns, and I'm here to show you the best and worst VR has to offer. Tonight, we're working on the railroad and checking out Derail Valley, a game that I actually first explored back in the ancient space year of 2017. I was just a naive young fawn playing around with consumer VR in its infancy, and I enjoyed the simplified train simulation of Derail Valley's early demo. Things have changed a little bit since then, though. There's nothing simplified about the overhauled version of Derail Valley. All of your important train controls are here, and everything has to be done pretty much manually. For simulator enthusiasts, that's great news, but for everyone else, it's a bit of a slog. That said, the simulation works quite well, and definitely feels immersive. It immediately feels cool standing in the train and having access to everything. It's the kind of thing most people don't get to do, which is sort of what VR is all about. Sure, driving a train might not be your greatest fantasy or anything, but it's still pretty cool. If you just want to mess around with something normally forbidden to you, it's a lot of fun, but with a caveat. Because it's when you start actually trying to play the game for real and do jobs that you realize how difficult it is to play a simulator game using VR motion controls. Right off the bat, you have to keep track of more than a few documents, memorize the train controls, and manually couple cars together. This makes for a much more realistic simulation than you'd find elsewhere, since you aren't just handling these things by pushing buttons or moving a mouse cursor around, but it also gets kind of complicated and boring. This is especially true when you also have to keep track of and read the guide that tells you the controls and procedures in the first place. Even if this simulation style is for you, I'm disappointed to say that there are still several things that make this version of Derail Valley unnecessarily frustrating. Some of the controls are especially obtuse, or just plain obnoxious. For example, the button that opens your inventory is the same button that opens the menu, and it defaults on the menu selection. That means every time you try to pull up something out of your inventory, there is a pretty good chance that you're going to open up the menu by mistake. To all features' credit, some of the most commonly used inventory items can be accessed from the menu, wherever you may have left them in game. That will make a big difference. But that doesn't help with some other issues, like the tutorial you're thrust into right at the start of the game. If you watch my roommate's Let's Play on his show, TVGB Riftwatch, you know that he spent most of the video wrestling with the imprecise instructions he got from the voiceless instructor. It was pretty rough, guys. Now, granted, it is possible to play this game without VR. Completing the tutorial outside of VR might have been a better way to go, so he could understand what he needed to do before jumping in for real. But since this show isn't called Horns in a Monitor, we're not going to cover that here. As far as I can tell, there's also no option to reread parts of the tutorial. So if you forgot something, you might just be out of luck. And while we're talking about how to do things, the controls are also not always consistent. Some things are activated by the grip buttons and other things are activated by the triggers. It's a bit of a nightmare. So, Derail Valley. It's a fairly competent train simulator once you know how it works. And I have no doubt that with some tweaking, it'll soon reach a point where I can recommend it as a VR game to everyone. But for now, this one is for train enthusiasts only. That being said, once you have things working properly, it is actually a lot of fun to just ride the rails and see what you can find. I wish there was still a mode that played like the early demo with just a basic simulation and more freedom to just do what you want. But I also know that I'm probably not the kind of person that this game was designed for. I think what Alt Future is trying to do here, and I hope they continue to update Derail Valley until it's perfected, is make a really realistic train simulator. In the meantime, I'm looking forward to our next episode. If all goes well, and so far it seems to be doing so, we'll be taking a look not at a game, but at my brand new Oculus Quest 2. So far I've been having a lot of fun with this thing, and I can't wait to tell you guys all about it. So please stick around, or at least tune in next time. You don't have to actually literally wait until I post the next episode. That would probably be a waste. If it makes you feel better though, I delayed this one just so I could get my old background thing set up. So hopefully I'll finally actually be on time for once next time. In the meantime, thanks again for watching, and until then, the horns stay on, but the headset comes off.